Alright everyone, today I wanted to talk about 10 terrible games that for some reason all of us played growing up. But I didn't want to suffer alone, alright? So I invited my good friend and fellow retro gaming content creator, the Aging Gamer. I'm going to start off by letting him introduce himself.
Hello Internet, it's me Josh, the Aging Gamer. Dookie, thank you for having me here today. For those of you who don't know who I am, why, I'm just like you. I have a love and passion for retro video games. On my channel, we go back in time and we look at the games from the yesteryears, the good and the bad. We take a look at games from the NES, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Game Gear, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and all that good stuff.
Be sure to check out his channel as well. If you like retro gaming content, please be sure to subscribe to the Dookies03 Retro Gaming channel, okay? Be sure to like, subscribe the video, and hype it if you're on mobile. Now to kick things off, I'm gonna let the Aging Gamer start with his first pick.
Let's start this list off strong. And by strong, I mean incredibly weak. I'm talking about The Simpsons, Bart vs. the Space Mutants. Now, back in 1991 when this game was released, The Simpsons as a series was still really early in their television run, but everyone loved The Simpsons. So a Simpsons video game was a no-brainer. How did the first Simpsons home console game actually turn out though? Well, pure crap. So crappy that a majority of its players have never even experienced anything past the first level. So, in this game, evil aliens are secretly invading Springfield, and it's up to Bart Simpson to save the day. Every level has you doing a specific task, like collecting balloons or hats. The first stage has you getting rid of anything purple, whether that be by covering it up or by spray painting it. While this sounds simple enough, this game is a perfect example of how unforgiving some NES titles could be. You'll be pretty clueless on how to do a lot of these tasks, and you'll be doing lots of wandering. And also, the platforming here doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, how the hell does someone jump onto a door window? And how would I know that a garbage can could also potentially be a trampoline? All in all, I've never really had fun playing this. In fact, I've never heard anyone say anything positive about this game, which makes it astonishing that this title sold over 1 million copies, making it a bestseller. It also spawned a bunch of crappy sequels. Thanks, who published this? Acclaim? Thanks for nothing.
Eat my short.
Alright, next up, we've got California Games. Dude, this was on everything back in the day. I played it on the Genesis and the Commodore 64 growing up, and it was terrible. Like, no matter what version of this game you played, it was freaking awful. I remember doing like the rollerblading thing, had no idea what the heck I was doing. I'd move my feet like twice and fall on my face and then just repeat that endlessly until the game ended. There's just nothing good about California Games. Everybody had this game for some reason. It was on every console and it was absolutely freaking garbage.
Oh man, back in the early 90s, if you had a PC and you weren't playing the likes of Rodent's Revenge, Ski Free, or Jazzball, there was a good chance you might have played Prince of Persia. Iconic in its own way, Prince of Persia would be available on other consoles, like the NES version shown here. And this looks like it could be fun. But is it? No, not really. This game is nothing but trial and error, which normally is fine as most NES games are like that. The problem here is that the controls aren't up to par, in my opinion. Moving around is kinda wonky. You gotta place yourself perfectly in place to perform a lot of these stunts. And when you're running, you kinda have a hard time stopping yourself. Incidents like this could happen a lot. This game has that feeling of constantly walking on eggshells because you never know when a trap will appear. And there's lots of traps. It's all in all pretty easy to die in this game. Don't expect any mid-level checkpoints or anything like that either. If you fail towards the end of a level, you'll be starting from the very beginning, forced to do the same daunting task to get to the end. Oh, and not only that, the whole game is timed. You have exactly 1 hour to beat the whole entire game. Good luck with that. Prince of Persia was a game that a lot of us played, but just because it was there back in the day, doesn't necessarily mean it was particularly great.
My next pick is Cool Spot. Again, this was on pretty much everything. This game wasn't as terrible as California Games, I'll admit, but it wasn't that great either. I feel like everybody remembers the first level, and then nobody really got any further than that because the game was just so freaking boring. It's not like a bad platformer in terms of controls, and it had a cool vibe to it, but it just felt pointless. And it's one of those games where you have to just explore every square inch of each stage, trying to collect these items in order to fulfill a quota so that you can move on to the next stage. And it just got so boring so fast. This was a game I rented like a ton, and I don't know why, because like I said, I would just play the first level or two and then put it down and never play it again. Spoiler alert, kids aren't the smartest. But yeah, cool spot on the Genesis and the Super NES were kind of the main ways I played this. I think it was on the NES as well. Might have even had a Game Boy version. Not a good freaking game. And it was just such a time waster, especially when your parents would only let you rent one game on the weekend, and this was the game for some reason that I kept renting.
Oh man, Jurassic Park, the movie, was epic. And with that Jurassic Park craze going strong in the 90s, Jurassic Park video games were of course made. There were a few Jurassic Park games out there, but I remember a lot of my friends and I mostly played this one. That's one epic intro, but once you start the game, the fun kinda stops. With a variety of weapons at your disposal, you can tranquilize dinosaurs that try to harm you, and also ones that don't. Where this game suffers though is from its gameplay. It has a lot of similarities from the last game I talked about, Prince of Persia, where there's blind jumps and even fall damage to boot. You'll find lots of health throughout the levels, but it's almost like the developers knew they went a little overboard with the unnecessary damage-inflicting traps and threw some health packets to try and even things out. The controls feel a bit clunky here too. All in all, it makes a rather lackluster experience, and combine that with the fact that there's no continues in this game, it leaves the game in a rather rough shape. There is the option to play as one of the raptors, which is actually pretty cool, but dealing with poor level structures and bottomless pits while controlling a character with poor jumping mechanics, the idea loses its cool factor pretty quickly. I will give the game props though, the T-Rex popping out is absolutely horrifying.
Man, another game where kind of the opening is really the only fun part of the game is Echo the Dolphin on the Sega Genesis. Pretty much everyone I know that had a Genesis back in the day had Echo the Dolphin, and nobody played past the prologue, because if you did, you found out how crappy and frustrating this game was. The story is about like these aliens invading and kidnapping all your dolphin friends, and as a dolphin you have to like fight all these other sea creatures and save them. But the only part that was actually fun in the whole damn game was just doing dolphin flips and shit in the prologue. There's like a little island you can jump over, and you can get going real fast and then jump out of the water. Like, the physics are really good, and the game looks phenomenal. And as a young kid with a great imagination, keep in mind Free Willy was out in that area. There was like a Flipper movie in theaters. So this was like peak time to play as a dolphin. Dolphins were the tits at this moment in time, but goddamn, this game was awful.
Batman has always been popular, but back in the 90s, us Batman fans were eating good, with comics, video games, awesome action figures, one of the best comic book adapted cartoons, and 4 full-length movies. And one of the movies, Batman Forever, had its marketing in full force, and it had, as you might have guessed, a really crappy video game.
If the Bat wants to play, we'll play.
And who published this one? Well, for a second time on this list, it's Acclaim! What we ended up getting here is a Mortal Kombat platformer, and I mean that in the worst way possible. When you start the game, you select your character. You can choose between Batman or Wait, who the hell is that? That's not in any way how Robin looked in the movie. That looks more like Eminem. Anyway, you play as either Batman or Robin, and yeah, it's a Mortal Kombat platformer with the same kind of controls, like pressing back to block, pulling off button combos for certain attacks, and you punch and uppercut the same and all that. The exception here is that you can jump and then press up to glide. Wait, how in the hell is Robin gliding in that position? That doesn't even make sense! The weakest part of this game is easily its controls. It's trying to do things in an overcomplicated fashion. Even something as simple as going down a platform can be frustrating. Do you press down? No. Hold down? No. Double tap down? No. Smash all the buttons till something happens? Well, yeah, that might work. If you're playing the Genesis version like I am, you'll hold the C button and then press down. How the hell am I supposed to know that? Through my entire life of playing video games, none of my video game instincts would tell me to do a combo like that to simply drop down. Anyway, this whole game is filled with awful controls and awful platforming and some of the cheapest enemies you'll fight in a game. And just throwing it out there too, when I was a stupid little kid, I actually got the Game Boy version of the game because I couldn't afford the home console game at the time. How do you make a bad game even worse? You put it on the Game Boy. This is complete garbage.
This one, I feel like everyone who had an NES has played. If they didn't own it themselves, someone they knew did, and that's Skate or Die. I still, to this day, like to pretend this is a good game. I'll fire it up, play a little bit of it, and be like, oh wait, no, this is garbage. The only part that I find, like, enjoyable to any degree whatsoever is I don't know if it's called like jousting in the bowl, where you're both like going back and forth. You've got like those American Gladiator poles with like the sponges on the ends of them, and you got to try and knock your opponent off his skateboard as you pass each other. That was the only game in this that was any fun whatsoever. Everything else was just frustrating to play. The controls were terrible and like never worked. I think because skateboarding was so damn cool that everybody wanted to play this game all the time, despite how awful it was. You've got punk rock Rodney Dangerfield telling you and showing you how cool this game is, and it's just a flop. Don't play this game, okay? But maybe do, to see what I'm talking about. There was nothing cooler than skateboarding at this time because of the Ninja Turtles and because of the culture of the times. I just wish this game was fun and had decent controls, because it's one of those games that you just really want to like, but unfortunately is complete and utter garbage.
Ah, jeez. This guy. At first, Bubsy seems like a great game. I mean, look at him. He's a bobcat with an original look. He's got some cheesy, sassy lines.
What could possibly go wrong?
He's in a big, colorful world. This seems like it could be a great game. But then you start playing and you realize this is going to be an unpleasant experience. When controlling Bubsy himself, he moves pretty quick. Almost too quick in a world like this. Anything and everything will kill you, and chances are, if you're running, you're gonna bump into something deadly rather fast. Bubsy can, of course, also jump around, but the physics of his jumps are off. They're very stiff feeling, and sometimes it feels like he almost gets pulled into the opposite direction. And with Bubsy's only form of attacking being to jump on enemies' heads, this is gonna be a problem. It almost feels like the developers wanted to make a game that pissed you off. You'll get killed by almost anything, even from falling too high of a height. And the game is generous with its lives, likely to keep you tormented as long as possible. And when you keep dying, Bubsy's little quotes at the beginning of the level, they feel more like they're taunting you for failing.
What could possibly go wrong?
This game is, all in all, a terrible experience.
And of course, the final game here that I had to mention was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 on the NES. This was before any of us had played Turtles 2, the arcade game. This was the only Turtles game at the time, okay? And Turtles were the best. There was nothing bigger and cooler and better and more exciting than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at this point in time. And as a kid, I would borrow this game from my parents' friend all the time, and I would never get anywhere in it. It's so freaking hard and frustrating. It's not a very good game. The enemies are just constantly being shit out. It's one of those games where they'll just like infinitely keep respawning if you don't push forward. And even if you do push forward, they're probably still gonna respawn behind you. The jumping mechanics in this game are incredibly frustrating. You take so much damage when you get hit. and if you lose a turtle, they're freaking gone, man. You can get these like rescue items that bring them back, but there's so few of them in the game. You're constantly switching out turtles through the pause menu, which is frustrating. A lot of the levels in this game are just absolutely impossible. The most common known one being the dam level, where you gotta go under the water and get absolutely cluster-fucked by electric seaweed. If you touch certain parts of the seaweed, it'll just pull you down. You completely lose that turtle. All you did was like get close to the bottom of the screen. You could have full health, that turtle's gone. You got nothing left. You're on to the next turtle. You've got a time limit on top of that. It's so frustrating. There's nothing more stressful than that freaking dam level. But after that, the game is still hard as balls. You gotta cheese your way through most of the boss fights. I just remember getting the turtle van and being like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever, and driving around the quote-unquote world map with the turtle van. And that's kind of the peak that this game had to offer for me as a kid. Most of the times, I couldn't even get that far.
Dookie, thank you for having me here today and allowing me on your platform. For those of you who want to check out my channel, where I do retro reviews on classic games from back in the day, top 10s, and things of that nature, you can check it out by searching The Aging Gamer and look for this icon. And again, Dookie, thank you for having me on here.
Appreciate having you, dude. It was an absolute pleasure. Again, be sure to check out The Aging Gamer if you haven't yet. I love his content so much. And if you enjoy what you saw here, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. If you like retro gaming, this is the place to be, okay? I do top 10 videos, I do reviews, all that great stuff right here on the channel. Of course, you can hype the video if you want. It helps out a ton. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.